Dear students, our today's topic is pulmonary diffusion part 1. Now let us start our discussion with physics. So what is the physics of diffusion of the gas? All gases in respiratory physiology are simple molecules that are free to move among one another, and this process is called diffusion. In the lecture of transport through the cell membrane, you have learned simple diffusion. So this is similar simple diffusion. Diffusion is a process that occurs when there is a difference in the concentration of a substance between two areas. And remember, no energy is required in simple diffusion. So the energy is actually provided by kinetic motion of the molecules themselves. Now, how net diffusion of the gas occur in any direction? So it will always follow the concentration gradient, means it will always occur from high concentration area to low concentration area. Now see the diagram. In a tube there are few gas molecules. Due to kinetic motion they are moving, they are striking against each other, they are also striking against the wall of the tube, but the net movement will always occur from high concentration to the low concentration. You can see there are two arrows. So this big arrow, long arrow is indicating the net direction of the movement of the molecules. Now let us discuss a term, partial pressure. You all know what is pressure. Pressure is caused by multiple impact of moving molecules against a surface. Pressure is directly proportional to concentration difference of the molecules. Now in the mixture of oxygen, carbon dioxide and the nitrogen, the rate of diffusion of each gas is directly proportional to the pressure caused by that gas alone, and this is called partial pressure of that particular gas. Suppose our normal atmospheric pressure is 760 millimeter of mercury. Out of this 760, 600 millimeter of mercury is exerted by nitrogen. So it is 79%. Similarly, out of 760, 160 millimeter of mercury is exerted by oxygen, about 21%. So these pressures are called partial pressures of the gas, and it can be written as a small p. So small p O2 means partial pressure of the oxygen. Similarly, partial pressure of the carbon dioxide and partial pressure of the nitrogen. Now we all know that in our body there are body fluids. So ultimately the environmental air is taking the gas into the alveoli, and now this gas is dissolving in body fluids. So how this gas after dissolving in the body fluids will exert the pressure? So it is in the same way as it will do in the gas phase. So there is a term, solubility coefficient. So what is solubility coefficient? The partial pressure of a gas in the solution is not determined only by its concentration but also by the solubility coefficient. So there is an equation. Partial pressure is equal to concentration of dissolved gas divided by solubility coefficient. Now this solubility coefficient of carbon dioxide is 20 times more than oxygen. So we can tell that carbon dioxide is 20 times more soluble than oxygen. Now watch and compare solubility coefficients of various gases. See, oxygen solubility coefficient is 0.024, carbon dioxide 0.57. So about 20 times more than the oxygen. Therefore, carbon dioxide is 20 times more soluble than oxygen. Once the gas enters inside our body, we have to take into consideration another important factor, which is called vapor pressure of the water. You all know the air is dry outside, but once the air enters inside our respiratory passages, it will get humidified by water vapors. So there is some pressure created by this water vapor. It is called vapor pressure. It is the partial pressure that the water molecules exert to escape from the surfaces of the respiratory passages, and its normal value is 47 millimeter of mercury, and it is always fixed. Remember, whether the person is at sea level or below sea level or at the high altitude, this 47 millimeter of mercury will not change, it will always remain fixed. Now let us discuss the factors which are affecting the net rate of diffusion in the fluids. First is solubility of the gas. We have already discussed the solubility coefficient. Second is cross-sectional area of the fluid. If there is more area, there will be more diffusion. Then third, distance through which gas must diffuse. So if the distance is more, obviously it will take more time to get diffused. So in few abnormal conditions like pulmonary edema, the distance will increase because of excessive collection of the fluid at alveolar level. So it will be difficult for the oxygen and carbon dioxide to diffuse in pulmonary edema. Fourth is molecular weight of the gas. If more molecular weight, diffusion will be less. And the last is temperature of the fluid. But actually temperature of our body is constant 37 degrees Celsius. So we are not taking into consideration the temperature. So what is the final equation? D means diffusion is equal to delta P means pressure difference, A means cross sectional area, S means solubility of the gas divided by D means distance and square root of molecular weight. So diffusion is directly proportional to pressure gradient, cross sectional area and solubility, and inversely proportional to distance and molecular weight. Now there is a term diffusion coefficient, and diffusion coefficient of any gas is proportional to solubility divided by square root of molecular weight. It is the relative rate at which different gases at the partial pressure level will diffuse. Now you can see diffusion coefficient of the oxygen is taken as standard 1. Now carbon dioxide is 20 times more soluble, so obviously it will get more diffusion, about 20 times. So carbon dioxide's diffusion coefficient is 20.3. You can also see diffusion coefficient of various other gases. This lecture is having various aspects of physics. So let us discuss few laws of physics. First is the Boyle's law. According to this law, at a constant temperature, the pressure of a given mass of a gas is inversely proportional to its volume. P is inversely proportional to V. Second is Charlie's law. At constant pressure, the volume of gas is directly proportional to absolute temperature. V is directly proportional to T. Then next is Dalton's law. The total pressure exerted by a mixture of the gases is equal to the sum of partial pressure of all the gases present in the mixture. And last is Henry's law. Partial pressure is equal to concentration of the dissolved gas divided by solubility coefficient. Now see the table. Composition of air at various locations. So atmospheric air, which is a dry air, is having different composition. After the air enter inside our respiratory passages, due to humidification by the water vapor, the composition will differ. Once this air reaches to the alveoli, where actually the diffusion of the oxygen and carbon dioxide occurs, again the composition will change. And once the person expires, then in expired air again the composition is different. Now you can see in humidified air, in alveolar air and in expired air, the water vapor pressure is always 47 constant. You can also see the total pressure is always constant, 760 millimeter of mercury. You can also see in the atmospheric air and humidified air, carbon dioxide level is almost negligible. Inside alveoli it will become 40. Important is oxygen. In atmospheric air, oxygen is 159. After humidification, it will slightly reduce and it will become 149. At alveoli, it will again reduce and it will become 104. So, remember various values at various locations. Now, this diagram is showing the rate at which alveolar air is renewed by atmospheric air. So it is not like that in a single breath you can completely replace the alveolar air with a new air. It is a gradual process. It is a sequential process. So you can see even up to 16th of the breath, complete renewal of the alveolar air has not completed. So it will occur gradually, breath by breath. Now this graph is showing the relationship between alveolar partial pressure of the oxygen with alveolar ventilation. So oxygen concentration and partial pressure of the oxygen is actually controlled by two things. One is rate of absorption of the oxygen into the blood, and second, rate of entry of new oxygen into the lungs by ventilation. Now focus on the red colored line. Focus on a point A. So it is our normal operating point. Alveolar ventilation is 4.2 at a normal operating point, and alveolar PO2 is 104 millimeter of mercury. Now when alveolar ventilation increases, PO2 increases. You can trace the red line above, and it is reaching up to 149 millimeter of mercury. That is the uppermost level our PO2 can achieve. And if alveolar ventilation decreases, PO2 will gradually become zero. Now what about dotted blue line? This dotted blue line is actually showing various parameters during exercise. So you can see when a person will do exercise, alveolar ventilation will increase and our alveolar PO2 will remain 104. But to maintain 104 PO2, alveolar ventilation is increased up to 20 liters per minute, 4 to 5 times than the normal value. And total diffusion of the oxygen is 1000 ml per minute. In resting curve, it is 250 ml per minute. So 4 times more diffusion of the oxygen occurs during exercise, and 4 to 5 times more ventilation occurs during the exercise. Now see the similar graph with carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide is controlled by rate of carbon dioxide excretion in the alveoli and washout of the carbon dioxide by ventilation. Again, there are two curves. Red curve is a normal curve in resting condition, and dotted blue curve is during exercise condition. On a red curve, the normal operating point is A with alveolar ventilation of 4.2 liters per minute and alveolar PCO2 of 40 mmHg. When alveolar ventilation increases, carbon dioxide washout occurs, so PCO2 decreases. And when alveolar ventilation decreases, carbon dioxide will accumulate in the body and PCO2 increases. Normal resting condition, about 200 ml per minute of carbon dioxide will diffuse at lung level. Now shift on the blue line. You can see 800 ml of carbon dioxide will diffuse when any person is doing exercise. Alveolar ventilation will increase 4 to 5 times, so about 20 liters per minute to maintain normal 40 mmHg PCO2 in the alveoli. Now this graph is showing composition of air at various levels. So on y-axis there are partial pressures of oxygen and carbon dioxide shown, and on the x-axis milliliters of the air expired is shown. So when we start taking breath, initially the air enters into nose and conducting zone, which is a dead space area. So you can see the composition of the dead space air. The oxygen is having partial pressure of almost equal to atmospheric air, and carbon dioxide is almost negligible because it is negligible in atmospheric air. Once the air reaches further to lower areas, there will be a mixture of dead space air and alveolar air. So oxygen partial pressure starts down and carbon dioxide partial pressure starts rising. And once the air reaches to the pure alveolar air, oxygen partial pressure will become 104 and carbon dioxide partial pressure will become 40. So various levels, concentration or the partial pressure of the gases differ. So this was all about pulmonary diffusion part 1 topics. Rest topics I will discuss in part 2 lecture. Thank you.